the Self-Preservation Society. This is the...
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Careful for Spoilers. I am your host James Barnes, and today guys I'm joined once again by my co-hosts Lola and Brad as we talk about The Italian Job 1969. Now we decided to do The Italian Job 1969 because we thought it would be really cool to talk about a film that's turning 50 years old this year on our 50th episode. Now, you guys know that I'm a complete sucker for heist movies, so pretty much it's just an excuse for me to review one. Lola, Brad, it's an honor to have you guys on the podcast as always.
I'm always happy when you ask me to come back.
Oh yeah, every single time.
Yeah, I always think I'm right on the line of getting another invitation.
Now, I'm actually really excited to talk about this movie. It's the first movie where I've pretty much seen a young Michael Caine, like this young. And I thought it was really interesting to see him in his element at this time in his career. And I enjoyed the film overall. I want to talk about which one I like more at the end of the episode, but I have lots of thoughts. The film was directed by Peter Collinson, and I think it was just a fine movie for the 60s. I don't know if it's just like a product of the time, but I've seen earlier movies that I found a lot more riveting and entertaining.
Same. I have to agree with you on that point.
It's definitely one of those that it feels dated in parts, but then there's like these moments where the cinematography kind of like takes your breath away, where you're like, oh wow, like this looks like something that would be shot today.
Yeah.
But it's and then it just reverts back to being like, oh wow, this looks really like it came out in 1969. So it's got like moments of brilliance, I think.
Yeah, I think that you definitely hit the nail on the head there. There are some moments where you're like, oh, that's really awesome, or that actually made me laugh. And there are other moments like, is this still happening? Is this still on? Why is there a ukulele song happening? There's a full harmonica solo over one of the, the music was so insane.
Oh, yeah.
And Quincy Jones did most of it.
Yeah. And it goes on for a while, and they reuse a lot of the score. And I'm like, all right, I get it.
There's that song over the very end.
The Self-Preservation Society?
Yes, sung by Michael Caine.
I swear I was like, oh my god, that sounds like whoever this guy is, it sounds like he's trying to be Michael Caine.
It is Michael Caine singing the song that lasts over the entire 11-minute end scene of the movie that my fiance will not stop singing throughout the house, and I'm going to kill him.
Now, I saw, I'm sure all of us did, I saw the 2003 version first. That one with Mark Wahlberg, Jason Statham, Donald Sutherland, Charlize Theron, Seth Green, Mos Def, and Edward Norton. I love that movie.
I love that movie.
Love that movie. There's a few things that they reference to the 1969 version. In that movie, they have the whole plan of driving the Mini Coopers through the house. That actually happens in the 1969 version. Thought that was really cool. What are your thoughts on that movie before we get into the 1969 version?
I am a huge fan of the 2003 Italian Job movie. I just think it's such a fun heist film. There's so many parts of it that are funny. The actual, much like the 1969 version, the actual heist itself with the Mini Coopers is just shot phenomenally. You're very invested in it. I love Charlize Theron in that film.
Yeah,
I think
great.
She's just a great character. I like when Edward Norton is the smarmy asshole, because I feel like I think he might be like that in real life. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Edward Norton. And it's a movie that Mark Wahlberg, I think, does a good job in, which is nice to see, because sometimes he doesn't really bring much to the film that he's in.
He needs the right role, and I think this was definitely it.
Yeah. Or his role in The Departed. He was so good in that. You know what I mean? But then, no, I don't want to see the Transformers movie with Wahlberg in it. I'm not a huge fan of what he's doing in Daddy's Home. It's always about, what
was it, Mile 22? That movie sucked.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Oh, my God, it sucked.
I cannot spend the time on a movie like that. But I love The Italian Job. I think Jason Statham and Seth Green have some of the best comedic chemistry that you would never expect. And I've probably watched The Italian Job once or twice a year.
Same, yeah.
Seth
I love Green's impression of Jason Statham in that movie is so funny.
Oh, you seem kind of stupid, huh? Perfect.
See, I need to rewatch it, because it's been years and years and years since I've seen it. I remember really, really liking it, but I'm also like the world's biggest Edward Norton fanboy, so I'll watch anything that he's in.
You feel like he'd be cool to get a drink with?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about like how he would be like as person to person, but I just think that he's like one of the most brilliant actors that we have working today.
Yeah, no, that's true. A lot of the films that he's been in are in my top 20. I will give him that.
Yeah, he is absolutely amazing. So I have a question for you. Who do you think played the better Charlie Crocker? Would it be Michael Caine or Mark Wahlberg? Now, Brad, I know you say you haven't seen it in a while, so you don't know, but...
I think they are two completely different types of Charlie Crockers. Like, Caine's version is trying so hard to be James Bond. It's almost annoying. I mean, he's very much the playboy. He has this girlfriend, in quotation marks. I
guess, yeah.
That he doesn't...
whatever she is.
Whatever that entire role was. I think that Michael Caine is more charming than Mark Wahlberg, and that a Michael Caine performance is generally more interesting than a Mark Wahlberg performance.
For sure.
They're playing two very different versions of the role. I don't know how to answer the question past that. Like, I want to watch The Italian Job 2003 more than 1969, but I think Michael Caine, especially young Michael Caine, is much more interesting than Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I prefer the version of Charlie in the 1969 version, but I find the 2003 version with Mark Wahlberg very interesting. It's like you said, it's very different. I just really wanted to see what you guys would say.
I like the fact that the 2003 version has the love affair with Stella, like the history with Stella. I thought that brought a lot of depth to the film. There is literally no character development in the 1969 version.
Do you care, though? I mean, you just want to get to the heist.
I care.
Does it matter?
It's not a porno. I'm not trying to like fast forward over the dialogue, James. Like,
what do you want to know?
Got the pizza. I just, none of the people had like names that worked with him. Like when they were laying out
names.
I didn't know them
written down.
Did you look them up or did you catch them in the film?
I caught them in the film, and once we get to those scenes, I'm going to point it out.
I didn't feel a damn thing for any of these characters.
Oh, I definitely didn't, but I wrote down their names.
And I was actually like, I won't say I was bothered by the one female character being absolutely pointless because it was the 60s. But then I started to think about all the other great films that came out in the 60s, and I was like, oh no, they just did a bad job in this movie. Like, you can't release a film in the same decade that like 2001 A Space Odyssey and Dr. No and Rosemary's Baby come out and do such a poor job at building a character. Because 1969's Italian Job is only interesting when the heist starts.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that.
But if we cared at all about the characters or could figure out what any of them were... like Bridger, I had to Google one of the character and ask like what he was even doing there. I think it would have been a more entertaining movie, which the 2003 remake gives you.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that was beautifully said.
Thank you so much.
So let's dive into the movie. So when the movie opens, we get some brilliant cinematography over these mountains. Like when I did some research, they recorded footage in Ireland, England, and one other place I can't remember exactly.
Were they ever actually in the Alps?
I think so. They were in Italy, Ireland, and England. So all of those location shots look brilliant. We're getting this guy driving through the mountains in this beautiful car. I can't remember.
It's a Ferrari something.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what exact model it was, but it's a beautiful
Ferrari
car.
model they don't make anymore, so it was very cool to see it.
Yeah, we're seeing this guy driving through the mountains over all of the opening credits and everything. He drives through a tunnel and then the car explodes. Then on the other side, we see the Italian mafia with this bulldozer. And then they just push the car completely off the ledge. And then we cut to Charlie in prison. This is pretty much the first time we meet Charlie. This is where we meet Bridger. And I couldn't tell you what Bridger's role was in this movie, really. I guess he's the guy that sets everything up, but yet he's not really involved in the heist in any way. I mean, Charlie finds all the guys. Like, what does he do in this movie?
like I said, I had to Google it because I thought he was the warden of the prison because he's wearing like silk robes and he has like his own bathroom in the mornings and all this stuff. And it's like he's apparently a very well-connected British mob boss who's in jail, but he's paid off all the guards, so he's living as if he was on the outside. And he's the one who bankrolls the whole thing. Although they never really discuss that.
You make a good point. They do discuss that later on in the film, where I believe the guy's name is Camp. He's talking to Bridger.
Is that pink suit?
Yes.
He wears the most beautiful 1969 pink suit I have ever seen a man, and he rocks it.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
He looks great.
Yeah, they're talking and they're going over the budget because they're blowing up cars are being destroyed, and he's talking about all of the money they're spending and all that stuff. But I mean, come on, you're making $4 million in gold.
Yeah.
Like, get over it. You can spend just a little bit of money. So we get more with Charlie, and he gets out of prison. And this is where we meet Lorna, who picks him up.
Oh, her name is Lorna?
Her
Good
name is
catch, because
Lorna.
I had no freaking idea. Did you know her name during the movie?
Not a clue.
And she picks him up in a stolen car.
Right?
Yeah, from an ambassador.
Yeah,
Ambassador, like she's nuts. Why would you? I get it. Like, you want to pick him up with some flair, but really, he's getting out of prison, and you're gonna steal an ambassador's car to pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
And like, are they married? Is she just his girlfriend? Were they just like hookup buddies? What is this person to him?
She didn't visit him in prison because it's not her scene.
Well, I get that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, how would she look with people looking over at her, crying with the sobbing wives? I'm like,
Oh
give
my
me
God.
a break.
Well, and also, just the whole thing is so funny to me. Like, she's dressed super 1960s, which is fine, but it's like she could never really figure out what her character was. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, sometimes she was ditzy and stupid. Sometimes she was fine.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, she's a part of the heist. Like, she has a role to do in. Well, she did have a role to do
in the heist?
I mean, she was supposed to be driving one of the secondary cars. I think she was supposed to be in one of the Jaguars.
And then maybe, and then he sends her home because her uterus might freak out on the whole mission. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because he loves her and he's just way too manly to say it.
We can't have you ovulating on this mountain while we're trying to.
So she picks him up. They go to his tailor. He gets a new suit. Love that suit, by the way.
I loved that whole tailor scene. I thought the tailor was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
When he's like, "Did you go away for life? None of these clothes are in style anymore." And he puts him in that like hot pink floral button-up number that like it's not good.
Yeah, so he gets a new suit. He goes to look for his car, and he apparently just keeps a stash of money where the engine is, and no one found it.
That was my question, was how is he affording all of this stuff? Because he has like his arms full of shirts whenever he's like, yeah, just give me all of these. And I'm like, whoa, where did you get the money for all of those shirts from this probably expensive tailor?
He literally bought so many shirts. He had one for every day of the month. But then when he shows up to pick up his car, he has no bags. No shirts.
Yeah.
And I read that the whole scene where he's picking up, I believe his car is an Aston Martin. So again,
yes, it is.
The movie is trying so hard in the beginning to set him up like Bond. It's not even funny. Mm-hmm. They said that the whole scene was improvised. Like, they gave the two actors, they said, like, you're going to pick up the car and you're going to find the money in the bonnet and you're going to pay him and then you're going to leave. So, like, that whole thing that he was saying about, I made all this money shooting tigers with a machine gun in Africa, or India, that was all improvised. It's just some shit Michael Caine said.
That's where he was using the Tommy gun in the American poster.
Yeah, because the American...
using the Tommy gun to kill the tigers.
Because I had to bring up to everybody, the American poster for this film is very different than the British poster. And it makes no sense when you view them next to one another. Because there's like a Tommy gun in the American version. The American audience did not like this film. It did not do well.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Because, I mean, for what it is, I mean, it could be because I'm just a heist movie fanboy. But to me, I thought it was fine. For 1969, for a heist movie, I thought it was just fine. I would rewatch it, just not really over the 2003 version.
Did you ever see the original version of Ocean's 11?
I did. I really liked that movie.
So that came out 4 years before The Italian Job. And I think it's a much better movie than the 1969 Italian Job.
For sure.
But it kind of gives you an idea of where the Italian Job was pulling all these ideas in from. It's got a lot of Bond influence, and it's got a lot of, the Rat Pack's Ocean 11 influence in it.
Yeah, for sure. So Lauren, is it Lauren?
Lorna?
I already forgot. Lorna. I have to look at my notes. I already forgot. So Lorna takes Charlie to this hotel, the Royal Lancaster, and she sets him up with an orgy.
Like
And
13 hookers.
Yeah, I'm like, you have a great girlfriend. Good job, buddy. It's like, you just got out of prison. Here's an orgy for you.
And they all look like fembots. The scene,
did.
The scene felt so Austin Powers.
It really did.
A lot of the humor in this movie felt very Austin Powers-y.
Yes, it felt like this is... I always thought Austin Powers was based strictly on a send-up of Bond films, but I really think it was this. And I've read a bunch of
different things from that time.
Like a lot.
I appreciate it so much more.
A couple of this film is highly regarded in British cinema. It's always on the top 50 like greatest British movies lists, and they said that this is really like one of the best films of what it was like to be in Britain, especially like London and the surrounding areas in the 60s. And I was like, Jesus, like it was Austin Powers.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so crazy.
So Charlie walks out of the room and he looks completely exhausted.
Oh, I mean, you would be after 13 hookers, man. He's only a man, James.
And he walks over to room, I think it's like 1666 or something. He meets the widow of the guy that crashed at the beginning of the movie.
Whose name is...
I have
Nobody knows.
I have no idea. I didn't bother looking that up either. But she gives Charlie the videotape of her ex-husband, pretty much, well, her late husband, explaining the details of the plan.
Which is, it's so interesting to think that in the 60s, criminals were actually putting their plans on videotape.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, they've got really good sound quality for this
Really
this videotape that
and I love that he bangs her before he leaves.
Right?
Like,
it's like, well, we have 4 hours to kill.
I was like, this man. The Bond influences in the beginning of it. You were just like, it's like a time capsule almost of what was considered like good and manly of your lead to be doing in the 60s. There's a lot of machismo in the film, much like your 1960s Bonds and things like that. I was just like, come on, man. Like, he needs a nap. Just got out of prison, 13 hookers, went to the tailor. Like, this is a big day, you guys.
So he finds out about the job. It's $4 million. The plan is to do it within this huge traffic jam during this game between England and some other team. I can't remember. He goes over the plan of disabling the cameras, going over the route and all of that stuff. And pretty much all Charlie has to do is put it together and make it happen. This other guy has already created this entire plan to get everything done. So Charlie starts making calls, and the first person he gets in contact with is Bridger, trying to convince him to do the job. So he sneaks back into the prison.
I was going to say, how did he get into the prison's bathroom?
Yeah, so he gets into the prison bathroom, and magically Bridger just walks into the perfect stall where Charlie's hiding. And then they have this weird stare down, and then the camera just like pans down on their faces, and then Bridger just leaves. I'm like, that was a weird scene.
It was a weird scene. And this was right about where the music in the film really started to get to me. Like, the music should not be a character in the scene if it is banjo music.
Yeah.
Like,
it's all very, like, zany music throughout the whole movie.
Like, you may not understand what's going on, but it's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, music was like an applause sign in the film.
It didn't match the movie to me. The music is really weird.
It did not.
And there are long stretches where there's just no music.
Yeah.
Like,
that was the heist. The first 10 minutes of the heist is nothing, which was actually great. And then the last 11 minutes of the heist is that song with Michael Caine singing it just repeatedly. It's like if you put your favorite song on and hit repeat, and that was how you planned a movie.
Pretty much.
So I guess we cut to Charlie's place, so just one of the places that he's hanging out during all of this different stuff. And Bridger sends his men over to this place. Lorna walks in, and Charlie's having sex with these 3 girls from the hotel, and he's telling her that he didn't get to finish at the hotel.
Oh my God.
And she should feel sorry for walking in on him. I'm like, what is happening?
This is not a good relationship. I wrote that down. I was like, this is terrible. And then they proceed to have a stuffed animal fight.
with squeakers going off.
But the squeakers were going off when none of them were holding a stuffed animal. So Michael Caine is hiding behind a giant teddy bear, and she's hitting him with a stuffed duck with a squeaker in it, and then she drops that and picks up something different. And it's like the weirdest scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super weird. And then Bridger's guys walk in, and then they have this really quick scene where Charlie runs into a bathroom. The guys run in after him. We see a silhouette, and then it immediately just cuts to Bridger's place.
Yeah.
And nothing is explained.
What did they do to him in that bathroom? Did they give him a talking to? Did they beat his ass? Did he take a shower? Like,
they were supposed to beat him up, but nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then we get back to Bridger's place, and Camp is like, yeah, I mean, Bridger wants Camp to get in touch with Charlie again because he's like, oh, now I want to do the plan. It's never really explained what changed his mind, but I guess it doesn't matter. I wrote
it down. It's that there is about to be a $4 million deal between Fiat and China for some plant that they're putting in.
Yeah, but Charlie told him that already.
But if you think about the first bathroom scene, a lot of bathroom scenes in this film, the first bathroom scene, Charlie never explained the plan to him. He just said, I have a plan. And Bridger just was like, get out. So basically, that entire 10 minutes of the film could have been condensed if he would have just let Charlie tell him his plan in the bathroom.
Yeah, that entire scene could have been removed.
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah, so really fun thing about Fiat. Fiat wanted wanted the spot of the Mini Coopers. They were gonna offer as many cars as they wanted, but the team behind the film was like, hey, this is a British heist. These guys need to drive British cars. So they finally were able to get the Mini Coopers, but when you see later on in the film, they drive through a Fiat lot just filled with Fiats. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought that was really a really cool piece of trivia.
And also, what was it? It's not BMW, it's BMC. So it was BMC before it was BMW. BMC only gave them 4 Mini Coopers and made them buy the rest of them at wholesale price. And they destroyed something like 16 Mini Coopers during the making of the film.
Oh
like, that's how badass the Mini Cooper was in the 60s, it was that popular. Whereas when you look at the 2003 version, BMW, who purchased BMC, now was like pushing the Mini Cooper so hard. They gave them all the cars they wanted. They paid for a lot of the merchandising, and now Mini Cooper is super popular again.
Yeah. So,
also, what was happening in that scene with Bridger? Was he at the dentist's office?
I have no idea,
because
honestly.
He was surrounded by people who were dressed like dentists. One of them was doing her nails. 3 of them were playing poker in dentist clothing. He was sitting on a dentist chair. Everyone was smoking. Okay, welcome to the 60s.
Yeah.
Everybody was smoking all of the time. And it was like, what's happening? I literally have written down, like, is this dentists? Are these dentists? Is he smoking with dentists? Is this the prison dental room that he goes in and like hangs out and drinks scotch? Like, it was so bizarre.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are just not explained in this movie.
It's so bizarre.
There's so many scenes that I'm just like, why is this here?
Well, yeah.
Why is it just to fill the time, like to make this a full-length feature, like to get to the heist?
An hour and 40-minute long movie in which only the last 30 minutes matter.
Exactly.
Well, and the scene right after this is when they go try to find Professor Peach.
Yes.
Also, are we playing Clue? And they're in the living room with his mom, his sister. That scene was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I was really confused.
Repeating everything, like I have no idea what was going on.
It was like this elderly lady in a room full of cats talking about how they institutionalized her brother because he did something, and they're like, what did he do? Oh, he did it in the foyer. In the foyer? Yeah, that's like, where he did it. It was like 11 minutes of what is happening. And then this woman, he's like, well, he did something ungodly with Annette. And then Annette walks in, and you're like, Annette looks like Mrs. Trunchbull.
She does! I thought that! Oh my god!
She looks just like Trunchbull from Matilda. That's not a good look. And then they're immediately at the insane asylum to like break Professor Peach out. And he's in a bow tie. And he's atrocious looking.
And apparently Charlie brought 2 women for him. Because, I mean, how do you say no? If someone brings you 2 women in an Aston Martin, you don't say no, right?
Well, and Professor Peach's type, I can't believe we're going to say Professor Peach this much on a podcast.
Yep.
Professor Peach's type is the big bone ladies, you know? And so he has these 2 large larger women in his Aston Martin, and Professor Peach does this face where he like bites his lower lip. I will have nightmares.
It is super creepy. He is such a creepy character throughout the entirety of this movie, because there's a scene later on where he's with this woman and he's pushing her butt.
Yes.
Like, it's super creepy and super uninvited.
And she's like an older woman getting on a bus in Italy, and he's like in that booty. I mean, he's learning it the way a blind person learns your face. It was aggressive.
Yeah. Very aggressive. So this is where Charlie brings Professor Peach to everyone else, and this is where we get introduced to all of the characters, and this is where Charlie lays out the plan for everyone else.
And it's also the first time and only time in the whole film he says anyone besides Bill's name.
Yes.
Yeah. Very true.
So we have Bill Bailey, his number 2. And then the drivers of the 3 Mini Coopers are Chris, Tony, and Dominic. Then we have William, the black guy.
The one black guy.
Who will be driving the bus. The one black guy, all he does is smile.
Yeah.
Smile, he has a few lines.
And drives
and
the bus.
Say, you ready, Charlie?
Yeah.
Right here, Charlie.
Pretty
you ready,
much.
Charlie? I want to see if we can find a count of how many times the name Charlie was said in this film.
So many goddamn times.
So many times.
Yeah, so we then we get to Professor Peach, who of course is in charge of computers and tech. Then we have Charlie's main crew. We have Arthur, who is on explosives. We have Frank, Raza, Coco, Yellow, Camp, Roger, Dave, and Lorna.
Wow.
I wrote them all down, people.
A little bit of trivia. Coco is Stanley Caine, Michael Caine's brother.
Did not know that.
He's the stupid blonde guy who like steals chicken during the heist.
That was so
Make
funny.
a wish.
I have that in my notes. That scene was so funny.
He has the biggest crew for this.
Yeah.
The crew in the remake is 5 people.
Yeah.
Like, he has so much crew that they actually need, like, a hippie Volkswagen minivan at one point to get him around.
I mean, for the scale of what they're doing, driving through the house, all the other stuff that they have to do to block up traffic and stuff like that, it was needed, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing a lot of different stuff in the 2003 version, and they have technology, too.
Because Professor
disposal.
Peach's tech expertise is, like, I don't even know what the shit that was. Was that a power plant? Was that an electricity plant? I know you can get into it by throwing a bike onto some power lines, which was insane. Like, the stupidest shit I've ever seen.
Dude, if he missed, what was the next plan?
He didn't have a second bike. Did you notice that? Like, what was he going to do? I've never broken in anywhere with a bike, so I was like, okay, weird flex, but I'm here for it.
So we get the garage scene where they're testing the cars, learning the route and all of that stuff. Again, something else that I think that was done a lot better in the 2003 version, where they're testing the cars, they have the computer up, Seth Green is working out the route, how to get the Mini Coopers down the stairs and all that stuff. In this, I thought some scenes were really cool, where they're trying to get the Mini Coopers up the ramp and stop immediately. I'm like, at that speed, how is that even possible to break instantly? And Charlie's all pissed off because they're not able to ride up this wooden ramp and stop before some bricks. I mean, like, what do you expect from these people?
Coco's not smart, okay?
He doesn't seem smart.
He's not
at
smart.
all.
He's not doing great.
So during this, Bridger is getting video updates of all of the different things that are happening.
Again, why are criminals putting all of their stuff on videotape?
I don't know. And they're talking so loudly to the point where one of the Italian mafia guys is just standing a couple steps down, just watching it happen.
So in the video that they sent them, Pink Suit Man, whose name is
Camp,
is on the steps of some Italian locale talking about the plan and pointing and loudly explaining it. And there's a guy with a newspaper just standing behind him looking. And it takes like 30 minutes for you to realize Bridger was like, oh, the Mafia has found out about this. They say Mafia, Brad. The Mafia. I was like, what?
And it's so weird because the mafia guy walks into the frame of the camera.
And he walks up to the camera and looks at it. And you're like, what is happening?
I'm like, so we're just not gonna address that this mafia guy just walked into the
mafia. I also want to talk about the scene where he's teaching them to like go up the ramp and stop. He's also trying to work with this ballistics expert to blow just the doors off of the car.
Oh, yeah.
He blows the whole
thing up. Which there is a very funny line, which is apparently extremely iconic, where he says, "You were just supposed to blow the doors off." But that scene is trash because he's like counting down. And so they look at the car, they look back at Michael Caine, he goes, 5. They look at the car, you're a little closer. 4, little closer on the car. 3, it's like zooms almost all the way in through the window of the car, and then they blow up the car. It's just the worst directing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And people are like, this is a very iconic scene. Why?
Because it sounded cool, maybe? In the 60s? I don't know.
I don't even know why that would be that cool, but I'm stuck there. I'm going to be stuck on that scene for years, you guys.
So Bridger's like, it's time to arrange a funeral. So that he can go out and meet Charlie and talk about the mafia guys, right?
Mafia.
Yes. You have to keep saying it like that. And Charlie doesn't seem bothered by this whatsoever. Then we immediately cut to Charlie and the crew riding through the mountains. This is where we're about to get to the heist, and they're riding through the mountains, and the mafia stops them. Now, I thought this was a pretty cool scene, seeing all of the mafia guys right on the mountain. We got the main guy. He has the guy with the bulldozer. He completely wrecks.
I had a big conversation with Nate for a long time. It's not a bulldozer. It's not it's like apparently a front loader tractor. I was calling it. I was calling it a tractor with bucket teeth in the front. Like, we literally had to pause the film and sit there and talk about it. And I was like, I'm so sorry I don't know farm equipment. Like,
yes.
That's not...
Sorry if I offend anyone by
sorry that I called your farm equipment wrong. Also, that scene was so funny because they keep putting the tractor teeth down in the car and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And he has to keep lifting the arm up.
It scratches the paint. I think that's insulting enough.
And then eventually they just throw it off the side of the mountain. Throw this Aston Martin off the side of the mountain like, fuck your car. We're the mafia.
The mafia guys just completely disappear off the hill.
Yeah.
Like,
how did they get off of the hill?
I don't know. Everyone else gets into a car and they just disappear. Like, I want to know how they did that. Apparently, they're ninjas, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
After all of the mafia guys disappear, this is where we get to the scene where Charlie throws his bike into the, I'm going to call it the power grid thing.
Power plant, power grid. Like, I don't even know what it was. It was just where all of Italy gets its electricity from.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a glaring vulnerability if I can break it with a bicycle.
Pretty much, right? Just the precision drop of a bicycle just not only knocks out the power at the mafia guy's house, but wherever they're keeping that tape reel thing.
Yes, the tape reel that runs the lights in Italy for the traffic lights.
Yes, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
I loved when
I don't get the technology.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I liked that the mafia kept playing pool with like candelabras, and they were like, "Oh, he got it. He killed the power plant." Okay.
So Professor Peach, Camp, Arthur, and one other guy, they switch out the tape reel while the power's out. As soon as the power comes back on, they're gone. Right?
Also ninjas.
To
harmonica
They
music.
don't explain how they do that at all. The police are driving up the hill because, of course, the power's out. And the mafia guy, they have this whole scene where it's like, we have to just assume that they're already here. But we don't see anyone looking for them. It immediately just cuts pretty much to the airport scene where we're seeing the plane land and then they're loading up the truck with the gold.
Right.
I kind of feel like this film has really weird editing choices.
Super weird editing choices.
It feels like there was so much more to the movie, but then it also feels like there's just stuff they should have cut out that it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and I love the fact, too, that we're now about an hour and 20 minutes into the film, and we've just rehabbed it in, like, 8 minutes.
There's not much that's going on, really.
Yeah. I mean, they're unloading the gold off of the plane at the same airport that he's sending his girlfriend / not girlfriend home, which is an awkward scene. When she's like, "Oh, you care about me?" And he's like, "Get on the plane."
Yeah, because he's a manly man. He can't show emotion.
Right. I mean, emotion in a man is just the worst.
Not a real man.
Not a real man. Not Bond. You know what I'm saying? This Daniel Craig shit. Ew.
Lorna gets on the plane. She says, "I love you." I thought we would have seen Lorna again. I expected to see her at the end somewhere.
Probably ran out of the budget for her. They were like, "Who can we get rid of? The girl."
So the mafia guy, the main mafia guy, also shows up at the airport. He's staring at the plane as this truck is being loaded, and this is where we get back to the safe house. Everyone is making sure everything is wiped for fingerprints. They're burning the map. The Mini Coopers are leaving. Everyone is dressed up. The bus is ready. Professor Peach gets on the bus, and this is where he gropes the lady.
He gets in that hiney, yeah.
Yeah, and then immediately after that.
He goes to jail. And then and the fat joke was like a little old at that point, so she can't get up into the bus because she's too big for the door. So he gets on that butt and he pushes, and then he gets arrested because apparently he did more than that on the bus. So this guy's like some kind of pervert freak.
Yeah.
And then they take him to jail with the woman who's screaming in the fastest Italian I've ever heard. I thought I had broken my television and it was on fire. Did you think the same thing?
I thought that something was going on with the audio. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
It sounded like an Italian chipmunk.
Yeah.
It looked like it was like they sped up the footage.
Yes, it looked like the footage was sped up, and I could not figure out why. And then, of course, she can't get through the door of the police station because she's had too much pasta. And then he goes right back on that booty again. Like, he's such a creepy bow tie wearing fucker. Like,
he's a weird dude, and that's the last time we see him.
And that's all you ever hear about him. He went over to Italy with them and got arrested for being a creepy molester. Yeah. What a great story arc for Professor Peach on the bus with the candelabra.
So we have one guy who I guess is just in charge of translating Italian. And
I don't even know who that character was.
I can't even remember, but he lets everyone know that all of the gold has officially been loaded onto the truck, and the truck starts leaving. The truck is officially on the move. Everyone is geared up. Everyone's leaving the house. We see the Mini Coopers go in one direction. We see the bus go in one direction, and then we have this like smaller like van going in another direction,
which is all like decked out for the British team.
Yeah.
And that old man that just randomly appears, who's integral to the plot at this point, but I have never seen him previously.
I was very confused by that.
Yeah, there's like one really quick scene with him and Charlie, but then he just shows up with these devices, and each camera just perfectly has like a trash bin attached to it.
Yes, thank God
so
for
that
that.
he can just drop this thing in it that makes this and then the cameras are just out. Like, okay.
Haven't you heard of the doot doot machine? It's the most highly technologically advanced thing. It knocks out cameras. It takes away sound.
Were they like little EMP bombs or I don't even think.
I
they
guess.
Literally were like, we're not going to explain this. People are just here for the Mini Coopers. We're going to wrap up some Christmas presents, put them in some trash cans, and it's going to like destroy all of Italy's security and police systems.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Let's make them sound like this. Do, 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 do.
So we see the transport truck, and it's being followed by police. And I thought it was a tank, but apparently it just has like a really high pressure water hose on the end.
Where are they getting the water from? There was no water tank on that car.
I don't know.
It was like a Land Rover that had been made into a fire truck.
I don't know what the hell it was, but the traffic jam begins. We get this one like car transport truck that blocks off the truck on one end, another one blocks off the truck on the other end. The guys beat up the guards. They spray paint the windshield so that the people inside can't see, and then they push the truck inside of this house, this place. I don't even remember seeing that place when they were designing the plan. Pretty much, like Brad, do you remember that?
I have no idea where it came from. There's so many different points in this movie where I was like, okay, like, I guess we're going with this. Like, I don't know what's happening, but these Mini Coopers are cool.
That's how I felt. Like, the heist kicks off and the traffic jam starts, and it is an awesome traffic jam. But from that point forward, I was like, I didn't know any of this shit was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah,
they're like driving through buildings in a VW bus. Like,
yeah, it's so weird. The police use one of the car transport trucks to knock in the door, but by the time they break in the door, of course, the Mini Coopers are already gone. And this is actually where my favorite sequences come into play. But I want to hear your favorite thoughts from the heist.
The Mini Coopers through the mall I always like to see people driving cars where they shouldn't be driven.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's just like a thing for me. So driving through this very fancy, expensive Lux Mall and somehow missing all of the people, and then Coco leans out as they drive through an outside restaurant and steals a whole chicken from some lady. Yeah. And that part actually made me laugh.
That was hilarious.
There was also a part where the police officer on bikes are chasing them through the mall, and they go over like a wet part of the marble floor, and the police officer on the motorcycle skids out, and the maintenance man who's been, like the janitor who's been mopping, looks at him like, you asshole.
Yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious. Like, he wasn't mad about anything else except this police officer laying in the spot he had just mopped. It's like, come on, dude. Priorities. I don't know, Brad?
I love the tunnel sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks like one of the Mini Coopers almost loses control, like, at the beginning of it. I was like, oh, shit. Like, this is going to get intense. But they righted their way. But, that tunnel sequence was really cool. Going down the stairs in the Mini Cooper.
During the wedding?
Yeah.
That was
the wedding
really
scene
awesome.
was great, yeah. May I just point out one thing about the weight of gold versus the weight of Mini Coopers?
Yeah.
See, they do have a scene where they do talk about manipulating the Mini Coopers.
Because I missed it. Did you miss that scene?
I totally
missed it.
Yeah, it's the same scene where the first time we see Charlie in the garage and he's like, you do this, will it hold the weight, Like, there's a whole scene about that, but it's like, yeah, it's still kind of ridiculous.
One thing that I loved in the 2003 remake was that they spent a good 10 minutes on them figuring out how to modify the Mini Coopers so that they can have a driver, a passenger, and all of the gold. And because I'm a nerd, I looked it up. And apparently gold cost $38.69 per ounce in 1968. So $4 million in gold bars would have been 7,000 pounds.
Damn.
Which meant each Mini Cooper would have had to carry 2,300 pounds. And a 1968 Mini Cooper only weighs 1,400 pounds.
Damn.
On its own, and they put a driver and a passenger and 2,300 pounds of gold into the back of it.
That they lift effortlessly.
Oh, yeah.
All of these people are the Hulk because they're just lifting shit like no problem. And the gold is actually held together, and apparently gold, like, chainmail.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, you have to see the gold. You can't just put it in like a wooden box.
Obviously. Like, that's how you would transport it, in some kind of gold netting for sure. But just the idea that, like, do you know what would actually happen to a Mini Cooper going down 12 flights of stairs with 2,300 pounds of gold in the back end of it? Not what we saw in this film.
Yeah.
I've not done it, but I don't think it would have gone like this movie.
Yeah, but that's just where you have to suspend your disbelief and just have a great time watching these Mini Coopers just do some crazy shit. Like, this is...
I guess.
This is my favorite
the physics
sequence
of
in
it
the
really
whole movie.
bothered me.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to have fun, James.
Yeah, but I love watching the Mini Coopers go through the house. They're driving on this sidewalk. Like, they jumped a roof. Like, they do so much crazy shit. Like, they drive through this Fiat lot, onto a highway, over a dam, like you said, Brad, through the tunnel. They finally lose, like, the last police officer.
On top of a building. I thought that scene was so cool.
Sick.
It looked like a miniature Sydney Opera House.
It did, yeah.
And they drive up on a ramp. They hide on the edges of the building. The police officer parks in the middle, and they drive off of the top of a building onto it. Like, that scene was awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. They go over this dam, and you see them on this highway, and they load the Mini Coopers onto the bus. I thought that was a really cool sequence because it's incredibly difficult to do, I can imagine. And getting all of these three cars to stop perfectly once they're on the bus, especially the last one. Like, that was really, really cool watching that get done. So they unload all of the gold. They're in the bus, they're going through the mountains, they meet up with the other guys in the van, and they're just driving through the mountains, having this jolly old time,
throwing
drinking.
the Mini Coopers off the sides of the mountains.
Yeah, because, I mean, you gotta get rid of them, right?
One of them actually, like... So two of them rolled down the mountains and landed. One of them, as soon as they kicked it out of the car, blew up
Just blows up immediately.
I was like, pyrotechnics went off early.
Yeah.
It happens to the best of us.
And I like that it was pretty much all shot practically. Like, I do appreciate older films. You just have to do this stuff in order for it to look realistic. So I love watching these Mini Coopers fall off of this mountain, the way it was shot, and all that stuff. And William is just driving this bus like a fucking idiot.
Oh, like a madman.
He's just speeding around these corners in a bus. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And he's just sitting there smiling like an idiot, because that's what you have black people do. Then you just have them smile and look real presentable and whatnot.
I will say, when I was in Italy, I was lucky enough to spend 3 weeks there once, and they do have mountain like paths like that the tour buses go on, and they all fucking drive like William was driving. I thought I was gonna die multiple times. It was great. I felt
you can
so
do that
alive.
in a car, but you don't do that in a bus.
They do it in buses, man. And they'll be taking this super sharp turn, and there'll be a car coming on the other end, and the bus driver will be yelling at the car like, "I'm here first." It's insane. You get off of those buses, and you just feel like 10 years of your life is gone because of the fear you just experienced. Now, why William chose to drive like that with $4 million in gold bars and like 14, 15 men in the back of the bus. I don't even know how many of them were in there.
Who knows? I really don't.
When you
I
were
didn't take
listing
count.
his crew, I was like, I had no idea that many people were there. Coco, Yellow, Santa Bob Rex. I didn't know who any of those people were in this film.
So we get to the literal cliffhanger where the bus is literally hanging off this cliff, and I thought it was really well done. It's filled with tension. I thought it was really cool, really interesting, and then the movie just kind of ends.
Yeah.
And then when I read up on the movie, they left it open intentionally because they wanted to do a sequel to this if the film did really well. You know, it would pick up exactly where it left off to see if they actually got away with the gold. Like, it's crazy, like, to think that you executed this plan perfectly, and now not only could it all be over and you lose the gold, but you could all die at the same time. Like, what did you guys think of that scene?
It was fine.
Yeah, it was a very interesting way to end the movie. I mean, I get the whole, like, oh, we gotta set it up for a sequel because we see that so many times nowadays. It was kind of weird to see it in a movie from so long ago, because you didn't really see that a lot then. Yeah.
Michael Caine's just like, all right, boys, I have a plan. And then the camera just pulls away. We get the end credits, we get the music, and then the movie's just over. And I'm like, you could have cut out so much other bullshit, and you could have had, after the heist, you still have this extra amazing scene where they somehow miraculously save this bus and get the gold. And it's like, well, boys, that was a close one. And then it ends. Like, I thought that would have been cool, but the cliffhanger is just meh.
That's exactly how I felt. I thought, oh, wow, we could have trimmed so much unnecessary fat from the front of the movie, because when the heist kicks off, it's when you're actually invested in the film. Like, it was kind of tough to get through the movie until the heist started. And then when they just ended it with them hanging off the side of the cliff, like, it was such an obvious, we're going to have a sequel. And then it's like 50 years later and you've had remakes, but you haven't had a sequel. Like, burn. That's rough. That doesn't feel great, I'm sure.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's a lot of films that end on cliffhangers, and it's just like, maybe find a better way to do it, where you write the ending in such a way where it's just open, but there's still a sense of completion. And I think this film is missing that. Do you guys have any overall thoughts of the 1969 Italian Job in general and compared to the 2003 version?
I mean, I think it's got some really impressive stuff for the time, like whenever the heist actually gets started. But like we were saying before, like, there's so much just seems like unnecessary stuff in the front end of this movie. So overall, it's like, yeah, it's okay. I'd say that the heist scene is definitely worth watching. But overall, is the whole movie worth watching? I don't really know. I
kind of feel the same way. Like, I feel like you can just go on YouTube, watch the heist, and maybe just watch a couple clips of them, like, preparing for the heist. But everything else, like, I feel like everything with Bridger is just kind of useless. Like, I feel like he's just there to be an extra face, almost. And the other guys, like you mentioned, there's just no real character development to them. I was just being devil's advocate. Like, I don't really. Sometimes
no, James, not you.
I don't feel like
James.
I don't feel like every character needed development, but I feel like more characters than just Charlie need development.
Yeah.
Like, it was just Charlie and no one else.
Even if we would have realized during the film itself that Bridger was a prisoner and not the warden.
Yeah, like,
might have been
just
better.
explanations to things.
I said it earlier before we were recording, and I'll say it again now that we are recording. Watching the 1969 version made me appreciate the 2003 version even more. Because I think that the original Italian Job sort of exists as the movie itself, but then also as this idea of a great car heist film. And it is a great car heist film, but it's not a great film.
Yeah.
And the Italian Job, 2003, was able to build off of the heist and make a pretty decent movie. I mean, I'm sure there are people who think it's the worst film they've ever seen because film is so subjective, and that's fine. But I love the 2003 version. I like the way that it's almost like a revenge heist, which is just awesome. And it feels like almost like a sequel. Like, this is what happened after they got back with the gold. Because what if in the original Italian Job, after they got off of the cliff, Bridger had it set up to steal the gold from them and leave Charlie for dead? You know what I mean? Like, that's almost how the remake feels. Because it starts with them successfully stealing the gold, and then the gold is stolen from them. Yeah. So I really appreciate the plot of the 2003 version. I liked it. Like I said, I watch it once a year. I think it's great. I agree with both of you. Like, the heist, watch it on YouTube for sure. You know, don't go through all the trouble of finding this movie.
I don't think it's worth, like, buying on Blu-ray per se. I feel like just watching clips on YouTube would be perfectly fine, and I would definitely recommend going to see the one with Mark Wahlberg. That is just so much fun. I feel like they make the heist with the gold more interesting. Like you said, it's a revenge heist, because you steal the gold at the beginning from, I believe it's like, they steal it in Italy, right?
Yeah, that's why it's still called The Italian Job. It's essentially the whole first film, but like
and then
shortened
the
into 10
antagonists are Russians, right? Because they're also trying to get the gold.
Well, yeah, the Russians come into play in the remake in, I believe it's L.A. they're in, because Edward Norton owes them money. And they go and tell the Russians or whatever gang it is, like, he's got all this money in gold, help us steal it from him, we'll give you half of it.
Yeah, there's just so much.
There's an actual plot.
Yeah, there's an actual plot. There's an actual plot. There's an actual antagonist. There's no real antagonist. Not saying like every film needs one. I feel like if this version, the original version, was more interesting, I wouldn't be thinking about an antagonist, because the goal of a heist movie is just to get what you're going to get. As long as our heroes get what they want from the heist, I feel like you feel a sense of victory. But I feel like because this film is lacking other things, an antagonist could have boosted the film. Yeah, you don't really get that sense.
I don't know, I feel like that's almost why Andy Garcia's character was added into Ocean's 11. It's because you need that guy that you hate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like, how dare you kiss Julia Roberts on the mouth, Andy Garcia? She belongs with George Clooney, and we're going to steal your Vegas money to prove that point.
See,
and
that
then the next 17 movies, I don't even know what happened in them. I loved Ocean's 8 with Sandra Bullock. Yeah. I'm ready for the Sandra Bullock, George Clooney, Ocean's 28.
I really liked Ocean's 8. My problem with it is it's just Ocean's 11 with women.
It's not, though. Yeah, I enjoyed it way better than Ocean's 11,
Sandra Bullock is Danny Ocean.
Well, she's his sister.
Kate Blanchett is Brad Pitt. She even has blonde hair.
The heist is very different.
They have an Asian that's there to do something specific.
But if you think, what I'm saying is, like, we should do this, because if you compare the heists of the films, they're very different. And
the heists are different, but I just mean, like, the character traits are just the same.
Wow, that's debatable. But if you like a heist movie, especially a heist movie based on con jobs, what you like is hearing all the different names of the con jobs and watching them go on. Like, we're going to do the red-haired stepdaughter, and we're going to do the elevator door. What I liked about Ocean's 8 versus all of the sequels to Ocean's 11, which was like 13, 15, 19, I don't even remember all of them, they give you so many different cons. And the final heist at the Met Gala is just as good as the final heist of Ocean's 11.
I definitely agree with that.
To me, it was a very different feel to the heists in it, and I like the characters a lot. I thought Kate Blanchett killed it in this movie. We're way off topic, but I enjoyed all of that. All of the ones that we've talked about. Italian Job 2003, Ocean's 11, Ocean's 8. I don't think I liked the myriad of Oceans in the middle. In one of the Oceans, Matt Damon put on a fake nose and tried to seduce somebody, and it got really weird for a minute. But I don't feel the need to ever rewatch 1969 Italian Job. And I think I'm glad that they remade it because it is a good idea. It's a really good idea. Just wasn't that well executed at first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would watch it again because I really like Michael Caine, but there's a lot of things that don't really age well. And in the grander scheme of things, you're just waiting to get to the heist. And just thinking about going through all of that other stuff, pretty much like an hour just to get to the heist, maybe it won't be worth it. I don't know.
I don't know. The movie is an hour and 40 minutes long, and the heist is 22 minutes of it.
Yeah, and it's the best part. And I just feel like if you can end strong, I think that's the most important thing. That's really what main audiences take away from movies. Like, if it can end strong, they can forgive a lot of things. Like, Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely because a lot of people, that's really all that they're going to remember is the end of the movie. But I feel like in order to have a well-rounded movie, you got to have something of substance up front as well. And I think that's what kind of sets the remake apart from is because the remake is actually memorable.
Yeah, very.
And it's been years and years and years since I've seen it, but I still can remember different scenes from it. And this one, I can really think of vividly just like that tunnel sequence and them going down the stairs. And I literally just watched this movie this morning.
Yeah.
So
Same,
yeah.
And I thought, I hope this shit happens during my wedding. I hope somebody drives slow with me. That would make it so much fun.
That was a great shot.
That was such a beautiful shot that really, like, that was one of maybe 4 shots in the film that I thought, that is gorgeous.
Yeah, anytime they were in the mountains, I'm like, this is just brilliant. This is just gorgeous cinematography.
Yeah.
But I think we've said all we can say about the 1960s, or should say about this version of the Italian Job. If you guys want us to review the 2003 version of the Italian Job, hit us on social media, find us on iTunes, and go ahead and vote for that. I would love to do a lot more heist movies. You guys know I am obsessed with heist movies. I think Heat is the single greatest heist movie ever made, and I really want to do that.
I should see that film.
You've never seen Heat?
No.
Holy shit.
Isn't it like 7.5 hours long?
It is 3 hours long. Yeah.
It is worth it, though.
It is so worth it.
Yeah, okay, y'all
It's
sound
incredible.
like every other man in my life I know.
Pacino, De Niro.
Everybody's got that heat erection, you know what I mean?
Because it's the greatest heist movie ever made.
You know
Yeah,
what?
it's
Okay,
awesome.
that's what I'm doing tonight. You guys have sold me on it. Who did you say was in it? Kilmer?
Pacino, De Niro, Kilmer.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just
I'll give it a shot.
good.
I will call you on the phone if I don't like it.
I want
That's
you
the
to.
scariest thing I can say to James. I'll call you.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up here. Make sure you guys are following us all over social media at C4 Spoilers. Head over to kevinforspoilers.com to get daily updates on everything going on in the world of movies, TV shows, anime, gaming, and get links to all of our different podcasts on the Kevin for Spoilers podcast network. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next time.